You know Gray Bar for electrical parts. But there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball, coming to you live on tape. It's not tape anymore, it's 2024. My name is Tyler Mon, physically alongside at a Bellingham, Washington hotel, one Sam Dykstra. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. Should we tell the people what hour of the evening it is when we're recording this?
It is a late hour of the evening.
It is a late hour of the evening.
It is the show before the show after dark.
It is. Which is some of our better episodes have been the show before the show after dark.
That is true. And fittingly enough, we're in former Pac-12 country. Pac-12 after dark used to be a thing.
That is true.
R.I.P.
That is true.
So it kind of works. It kind of works for us.
Let's just make a promise, and I say that to you as the person who edits the show and sends it to me to post. Let's not post this at 8 p.m. on a Friday.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Let's not post this at Pac-12 after dark hours.
Okay.
Please.
I'll do my best. Okay. Actually, a little while ago we were in an establishment in a local watering hole, and we were talking with our technical director for the broadcast that Sam and I just finished on MLB Network, Prabin Martin. And I said to Prabin, he was asking us about the podcast, and I said, yeah, I edit it every week. I kind of enjoy audio editing. It's like very therapeutic for me. And Sam said, I'm going to remind you of that when I really want to leave work and you haven't sent me the podcast yet. Which is fair. Yeah. I do. There are some weeks I'm like, oh, crap.
So if you're ever wondering if it's like a late hour on Friday and you're like, oh, the show before the show hasn't been posted yet, know that I am texting Tyler about this very issue.
And Sam's doing it in like this very polite Sam way.
Well, because I know you have things in your life.
I know.
Like, that's
you're
the
such
good,
a
that's the good thing about being friends.
You're
like,
such
we
a
know
good
what's
dude.
happening with each other.
It's always like, hey, any chance you're going to get to the podcast?
I know you have XYZ going on in your life.
Well, anyway, we welcome you to the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Obviously, a very different podcast this week. No Benjamin Hill. We will not be hearing from our good pal Benjamin Hill. But we will reunite with Ben coming up next week. Next week is our first normal podcast in like a while.
I don't know if it's normal because I will be in Tennessee next week.
Oh, never
it might
mind.
be somewhat normal.
Okay, semi-normal podcast.
Yeah, we'll make it work one way.
In quite some time. In probably the rarest of I think the rarest of combinations is me and Ben in person together with no Sam.
That is true.
But the second rarest would be me and you in person together with no Ben.
That is true.
And that is where we find ourselves today.
So what a rare treat for you,
which is very fun. All of you lucky ducks. We are in Bellingham, Washington. As noted, Sam and I just mere hours ago finished the MLB Network coverage of the West Coast League All-Star Game here from Bellingham. A thrilling come-from-behind win for the North Division over the South Division, 3-2, walk-off win in the bottom of the ninth inning, which was pretty cool. Gavin Jones with a walk-off hit for the North Division. And it was fun, man. That was a blast. It was the first West Coast League All-Star Game in 5 years, a collegiate summer league that does not have the same MLB partner league designation as, say, the Appalachian League, something like that, but is a league that works in tandem and is sanctioned by MLB to operate as a summer collegiate league. And some really, really good talent has come through that league and continues to come through that league, including guy who went number 1 overall on Sunday, Travis Bazzana, who played for the Corvallis Knights 3 years ago. And we'll talk a little bit about Travis and about the MLB Draft, of course, coming up. But fun night tonight, getting a chance to do the West Coast League All-Star Game. This is our first real baseball game broadcast together. For longtime fans of the Show Before the Show, you will remember 4 years ago during COVID, Sam and I created like prospect dream teams on MLB The Show, simulated games, and then watched them via Zoom together and broadcast those games for podcast episodes because the world did not exist at that time.
Yeah.
And now we're doing real games together.
Now
That's
we're
pretty
doing
dang
real games
cool.
with real people who like have not existed in my living room.
Right.
I remember recording those games and just being like, I can't walk in and I live in a studio apartment. There's not much space. I had to like sit in the kitchen for an hour and a half just so I didn't get a spoiler on how this game was going to go. And then tonight,
I forgot about that.
We have like an actual game that went down to the wire. Like you said, it was so cool. I mean, Gavin Jones, like you said, got to play the hero. Getting the walk-off win, but it was bases loaded, 2 outs, 3-2 count. I mean, it doesn't get more backyard
in a
baseball
one-run
than that.
game.
Yeah, in a one-run game. It was a dribbler to basically the shortstop position. The runners were going. The runner scores from second on an infield single.
Yep.
I mean, it was aggressive base running in the best way. There was lots of great defense tonight. This field in Bellingham has turf field. So it's a little jumpier.
Right.
So I think that helped with the overall athleticism of the fielders. But a lot of guys showed off really good gloves and timely hitting, like we said, and good pitching. It was 3-2. I mean, we're talking about all the other elements of the game. There are a lot of zeros on the board. Not particularly overwhelming stuff. It's not like we saw many fastballs above 93 maybe. But still, like these are guys who in many cases are community college, JUCO guys, NAIA guys attending Pac-12 or Big Ten schools who are just getting their careers going at the collegiate level. There's tons of projection left. The fact that this was the first All-Star game in 5 years and to have it end that way. Hopefully this is the first of a run of this, and they have games in Edmonton or Bend or Walla go down the line. This is a 16-team league in a lot of cool locations. That was one of the things we talked about a lot tonight, Tyler. And they're expanding to a 17th in Salem, Oregon next year. So West Coast League is definitely on very solid footing. Talking to Rob Nyer, the commissioner of this league, and somebody a lot of fans will recognize as a former baseball writer, it sounds like this is not just expanding for expansion's sake. This is on really good footing. It's good ownership groups. It's a lot of really good fans. Talking about Edmonton filling up a former AAA stadium night in and night out now, just to watch collegiate summer ball because these locations love baseball and their fan groups miss the game. On the minor league side, well, here's another alternative, and they're embracing it, much like we're seeing in the Appy League or the MLB Draft League. So to get to experiences for up close for the first time was really a treat, and then for the game to end the way it did, I mean, that was the perfect cherry on the top.
We had a whole bunch of fun. The two of us, along with Ryan Roland Smith, got to be on that broadcast tonight, and it was a blast. And a huge thanks to everyone who had tuned in and got a chance to.
And you still can tune in.
You still can.
The video still lives on MLB.com.
It does.
So I tweeted it out the other day. Go search my Twitter account, West Coast League. You'll find it. But yeah, you can watch it for yourself.
It'll be replayed on the network as well, I believe. But yeah, to have live coverage for the West Coast League on the network, amazing stuff for the league, and just to be in this spot in the sports calendar the night after the Major League All-Star Game. There's really not much else going on. There were a couple WNBA games tonight, some NBA Summer League action, but other than that, if you wanted to watch baseball tonight, this was the only show in town, and that was very cool to get a chance to be a part of. And so congrats to all the West Coast League All-Stars, a whole bunch of really talented college players who are off to some bigger and better things, they hope, and we hope, in 2025 and beyond. And it was fun. We had a lot of fun tonight. And with that, we have some other baseball-related things to discuss because it's a pretty big week. The All-Star Game, obviously, the West Coast League All-Star Game probably gets all of the headlines.
When you say the All-Star Game, I was thinking the West Coast All-Star.
Right, exactly.
We're
the
still
West
in
Coast
that
League
mode
game,
right now.
when they're like, oh man, Tyler and Sam did a game together along with Ryan Roland Smith. That's amazing. There was also the Major League All-Star Game, a smaller footnote on this week. No, obviously, huge week for baseball. The MLB Draft on Sunday, the Futures game this weekend as well. Sam, let's start talking about the draft because it segues us very well from the West Coast League because the first overall pick in the 2024 Major League Baseball first-year player draft, a West Coast League alumnus, Travis Bazzana, who played for the Corvallis Knights 3 years ago, And not just a West Coast League alum, an Australian player going 1-1, the highest selection for an Australian player by far ever. Really a historic selection, and the Cleveland Guardians, going after a guy who, by all accounts, was, if not the best player in college baseball this season, was certainly in that top 2 to 3 discussion.
Yeah, I think if you're going to have that discussion, it's between him and Charlie Condon.
Yeah.
They were 2 of the 3 Golden Spikes Award finalists. But Travis Bazzana very much fits the Guardians mold. They love their middle infield prospects. They love guys who can hit first, and the power will come after that. Bazzana, the power's there. It is plus power, but he's hit over power right now. He just seems to fit their model really perfectly. And there's been a lot of talk of, this was a down draft compared to last year,
right?
Let's say. There wasn't a Paul Skeens in this draft. There wasn't a Dylan Cruz in this draft, or a Wyatt Langford. Even Walker Jenkins or Max Clark may have gone first overall as up-the-middle prospects. That didn't exist here. So you have Travis Bazzana, who's a second baseman. Some questions defensively, like he's not a
first second baseman ever to go 1-1 also.
Yeah. So, he's not great on the defensive spectrum in that way. He might just be average. But the bat is so good and obviously fits Cleveland's mold so well. It seemed like it was going down to the wire. I mean, Jim Callis and Jonathan Mayo, talking to them, hearing from them minutes before the draft, it's either Bazzana or J.J. Weatherholt. A lot of mock drafts the night before had J.J. Weatherholt, a West Virginia player, going to Cleveland. It ends up being Bazzana. But I think he can move really quickly in that Cleveland system. The hit tool is going to play everywhere. He sprays the ball really well. He's got a terrific approach. And, speaking of the West Coast League, this is the place where he announced himself, right? Like, he hadn't played in Oregon State yet. He had committed there. He was going there. Played for Corvallis. Obviously, they play in the same stadium, in the same town as the Beavers. But he tore up this league. I mean, he announced his presence with authority when he played here, and that continued every year on the collegiate circuit. So you take a proven hitter, it makes a ton of sense in the world. I think the first surprise came at number 2, which, I mean, that's just the way it works. But everybody kind of assumed the Reds were going to take either Charlie Condon or Travis Bazzana, whoever the Guardians didn't.
Right.
And then they go away from that and go with Chase Burns, the right-hander from Wake Forest. I kind of love that from a narrative standpoint because who was their first-round pick last year was another Wake Forest right-hander in Rhett Lauder, who was already at Double-A. Wake Forest, notorious now for having a pitching lab.
Yeah.
Chase Burns was at Tennessee. I mean, I'm sure Tennessee would have loved this version of Chase Burns on its national title team. They would have been arguably the best collegiate team in recent memory, but they couldn't get Chase Burns to the level he's at now. His fastball is really good, although it doesn't play great against left-handers. His slider is a wipeout slider. He's got a good curveball. He's got a good changeup. He, I think, is the closest thing to Skeens in this draft.
Yeah.
But Skeens is like one of one. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I mean, the guy just started the All-Star game. But
As a rookie.
Insane. But Chase Burns has that level of stuff where you're like, okay, maybe some tweaks on the pro side. And the Reds have a pretty good pitching development pipeline. Some tweaks here and there, and I think he could get there. So I could see why they take him. And then you look at Charlie Condon going to the Rockies at number 3.
Right.
I think people were doing cartwheels in that room, not expecting
Right.
the best collegiate performer. To me, by far.
The Golden Spikes winner. We talked about it.
The actual Golden Spikes winner, yeah. Like, the reason why some execs liked Bazzana over Condon was the defensive issue. Condon's either a third baseman or a left fielder.
Right.
I don't think he's going to play anything beyond a corner. And if he does that, he's going to need to hit. Now, that being said, the guy hits.
Right.
There's no question about that. The guy hits. But, it's going to be a little bit more pressure for him to do that. The comp that a lot of people gave was Chris Bryant.
Right.
Which, like, if you're the Rockies, I know that's a difficult conversation to have. Say, like, wouldn't you take Chris Bryant?
You
did take Chris Bryant.
He's been great in Denver.
Yeah, I know. Think Cubs, Chris Bryant.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the Rockies were very high on it and wanted in that draft if they could have gotten
Yeah, right. So I think he can move really quickly. Everybody's salivating at what numbers Charlie Condon can put up. I think he's their best power prospect since Nolan Arenado graduated. And Nolan Arenado had 40-plus homer seasons in Colorado. I think Charlie Condon is capable of doing that. How quickly they rush him to the big leagues, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he kind of reminds me of a Dylan Cruz.
Yeah.
Like, Wyatt Langford was special. I don't think Charlie Condon's at that level. But, Dylan Cruz is now a AAA and knocking on the door of the major leagues in the second half of his first full season. That's a fast track by any other stretch. He just happens to be in the same draft class as Wyatt Langford and Paul Skeens. So I think Charlie Condon could be up in Colorado. I don't want to say by this time next year, but by late August, September of next year. So that was an interesting pick. The one that I think I'm most flabbergasted by, and we're kind of going pick by pick here, is the A's go with Nick Kurtz at number 4. Now, there are some really good players left, obviously, on the board. I mean, that's just, you're picking number 4, you're going to have to, but like Nick Kurtz, he's a really good defensive first baseman, I'll give him that. But they were using Matt Olson comps on him. As like, he could be a plus hit guy with really good power. I get that. But drafting a first baseman, fourth overall, is like a tough thing for me to swallow. Unless it's Jack Caglianone, who had 60-plus homers the last 2 years at Florida, and the potential to go 2 ways. If I was drafting him, which the Royals did at number 6, I would tell them you're hitting. But they seem willing to still let him go 2 ways, which like is great if they want to try that. I think he's like a high A pitcher right now and a double A, triple A hitter. So it's going to take some time to develop both. But that gives him more value than Nick Kurtz. So that was an interesting pick by the A's to me. Now, listen, if he does become the next Matt Olson, that's a great pick. Like Matt Olson, perennial MVP candidate the last few years, and guy who's continuously trying to lead first the AL, now the NL in home runs. So that there is some value there, but like when you have the wide swath of the draft available to you.
To go at 4th overall with that pick.
And Weatherholt's still on the board too. That's Weatherholt went 7th to the Cardinals, who I think they were saying everybody expected the Cardinals to take a college pitcher. Hagen Smith was off the board. He went number 5 to the White Sox. Chase Burns number 2. That's been their model the last few years, is to take a college pitcher where the top 2 guys are off the board. Who are you going to take next? I mean, maybe Durangelo Cincha, the two-way pitcher.
Switch pitcher.
Yeah, who went 15th to the Mariners. Trey Savage went 20th to the Blue Jays. But instead, J.J. Weatherhold's sitting right there, shortstop / second baseman. I've watched him make some plays for West Virginia during their postseason run. I think the guy can play shortstop. But the great thing is they have Mason Wynn at shortstop, who's had a good rookie year. The idea of pairing those 2 guys together at your middle infield spots, that's like really good. J.J. Weatherholt is just as good a hitter, I think, as Travis Bazzana. The only difference being J.J. Weatherholt had hamstring problems all spring, and that really limited him. But like the guy hit 449 last year.
Ridiculous.
Like if he was getting drafted, if he was a draft eligible sophomore, we're probably talking about him on that level. Of the Big Five of last year. That's not what happened here. He has to go through another season, goes through hamstring problems. Okay, he's going to have hamstring problems. Is he athletic as we think? We'll see. Maybe it's just a blip on the radar, right? Like, injuries happen. For him, they just happen to happen right before the draft. He still goes 7th overall. It's not a huge downgrade, but considering we were talking about him at 1-1, literally minutes. I can't stress that enough. It was like 10 minutes before he got. And Jim Callis, who is tapped in as well as anybody, is like, I don't know if it's Bazzana or Weatherholt.
And it's crazy to go from potentially being 1-1 to quote-unquote falling to 7th.
Yeah. I mean, it's different from other sports, right? Like exactly. None of these players, at least to my knowledge, as of now, as of recording, have officially signed. So what bonus did Bazzana get? Versus what is Weatherholt getting? If there is a difference of $50,000, then Weatherholt didn't really drop. He lost out on $50,000 over a 7-figure contract.
Exactly.
Like it's not that big of a loss to him, and he goes to an organization that obviously wanted him as opposed to the other ones. Could Charlie Condon sign for more than Bazzana? I think that's in play. I think that's maybe part of the reason why the Reds go with Burns over Condon. Draft position, and we have to say this every year, is not necessarily reflective of how the industry values you. It's just where are the opportunities? How have other things shook out? You'll have 8th round picks who sign for 2nd round.
Exactly.
Money, and that is more indicative of what their talent level is. We're not going to go through all 8 rounds, but like that's the top 7. Christian Moore goes 8 to the Angels. The second baseman out of Tennessee was a big part of their national title run. Was a catalyst for them in many ways. Hit for the cycle for them in the College World Series. Connor Griffin, first prep player off the board at number 9. That's tough to kind of swallow. Like that's a sign.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's a sign of where the industry kind of is. I don't know how much of that is the industry values college players more, or this was just a down prep year. It's tough to kind of battle those two things.
It also seems like, are we seeing the first indicators of where player development is at this stage? Because we hear so much about, Jackson Holliday was the example this year. A young guy makes it to AAA, has success there, then gets to the big league level, not ready. And for these young guys who go so much more quickly through these systems now, if you come out of high school, you are being tasked with jumping into professional levels that guys, 5-10 years ago were not jumping right into straight out of high school. So is this the first kind of the dominoes falling of teams are going to start trending away from the prep players and pushing the prep players toward, okay, go develop a little bit in college before we see you at the professional level? Or, is this just a blip because it's a somewhat down year on the prep side?
Yeah, that's my thing.
And it could be some of both.
I want to wait a few years before we see that, because there's also NIL money is wrapped up in this as well. William Schmidt was like arguably the best prep arm in this draft, had maybe the best curveball in the entire draft. A few hours before the process starts, announces that he's going to LSU. Mm-hmm. And that could have been a negotiation play, right?
Yeah.
Like he can actually get money out of LSU and their NIL deals now that he, okay, if I'm going to go in the draft and I'm probably going to go number 20,
right,
and that's worth X amount of money. Or I could go to LSU and get this amount of money times 3.
Right.
If all goes well.
Right.
It's a negotiation deck. It's fully within his right to use that, but that's going to become a thing now.
Yeah.
You're going to have more guys. We talked to somebody today, Roman Martin, who went to UCLA.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say NIL played a part in that, but he said to us directly, I had my number. No teams were willing to meet that number.
Yeah.
So I went to UCLA.
Right.
And he is right to do that, and we'll see how it works out in 2 years. But even so, he can still make money in the meantime.
Exactly.
So I think it's going to be a while until we really know these effects. Next year, who's arguably the number 1 overall pick in the draft? Ethan Holiday.
Yeah.
Who is a prep pick? We could be right back to this conversation of high schools are all the way back now.
Right, exactly.
I don't want to make too much out of this draft class, but it was indicative of something that Connor Griffin goes 9 to the Pirates.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people foresaw chances where the first prep guy doesn't come off until 13 or 14.
Yeah.
That was in play. Man. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Different kind of draft.
And then, Seaver King goes 10 to the Nationals, and Bryce Rayner goes 11 to the Tigers. Braden Montgomery falls to the Red Sox at number 12. He was the 8th overall. I think that's kind of the dividing line. Once Braden Montgomery was taken, you're all right, this is kind of the upper echelon of that draft.
Yeah.
Then James Tibbs after him, but some question marks about him defensively. So, it was an interesting draft. Now the fun starts in some ways of getting these guys signed and finding out later picks. Are guys signable? Guys you take in the 18th, 19th round on flyers? Can teams pull something off? And for us, this is a minor league baseball podcast. We know it does not stop because you signed the guy.
Right.
Congrats, you signed him.
Right, that's the start of it. Now you have to develop this guy.
Especially the high school types.
This
is just the start of their journey.
Yeah.
And there are going to be guys who we're not talking about now, who are taken in the 3rd and 4th round, who are going to be consensus top 100 picks.
Right.
And maybe by this time next year.
Right.
I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
Man, it's such a fascinating science because it's so inexact. The major.
And that's what I love about it.
Right.
There is not the LeBron James.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe that's Bryce Harper.
Right.
But there is not this number 1 guy with a bullet who immediately goes in and contributes. And I know that's a marketing issue for some people. You don't have that number 1 overall pick or the Caleb Williams of the NFL who all right, Bears fans are going to see him right away.
Right.
But I think that debate makes it fun for us on the minor league
so
side.
too.
We get to see that push and pull.
And it showcases the difficulty of the sport.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
the fact you can't just jump in from high school or college and be at that level immediately. I think there is something, I don't know if it's romantic about that, but there is something where, oh no, you got to prove it. You got to prove it at this level and this level and this level before you get to the ultimate goal.
And speaking of that romanticism, it's almost the other way too, right?
Yeah.
Like your draft position doesn't necessarily define you.
Right.
Jim Tomei was drafted between the 10th and 20th.
Right.
Like they're Hall of Famers.
Mike Piazza
Albert
was
Pujols
a
was
79
draft eligible.
prospect. Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like all of these guys, like just because you didn't hear your name called early in the draft,
Right.
you have opportunities to develop in the minor leagues. And that's why we love the minor leagues so much. That's why I love covering prospects so much.
Yeah.
I love the surprises more than I love I was right from day one.
Right. All right, Sam. It was not just the weekend for the Major League First-Year Player Draft. It was also Futures Game weekend this weekend, in which some of the top talent across the prospect landscape took to the field in Arlington, Texas. Your lasting impressions from the 2024 Futures Game?
Yeah, so this one was the NL winning 6-1 over the AL in 7 innings. It's always 7 innings now, so nothing weird happened there. But watching that game, I mean, anybody who listened to my preview previously, I kind of said like the National League was loaded with pitching prospects.
Yeah.
Tink Hence didn't even go to the game, and they still had top 100 prospects coming in left and right. So the fact that they only gave up 1 run, I mean,
not a huge surprise.
Isn't a shock to me by any means. You look at the names that came through. Chase Dollinger started. Noble Meyer got the win. Brandon Sproat got a hold. Robbie Snelling, Rhett Lauder, Quinn Matthews, Bubba Chandler. All of these guys are legitimately in our top 100. Some of them are like even more ascendant this year. Took Cam Collier, hit a home run. He ended up winning MVP. So I don't know. It's tough for me to like get too wrapped up in one game. Cam Collier's a fun story. He was drafted really young 2 years ago as a 17-year-old. Somebody who actually got Cape League experience before that draft.
Yeah.
And he was so young, and everybody was like, he looks really good in the models.
Yeah.
Because he's performed like he has. But it's going to take some time, and then he struggled last year a little bit in Single A Daytona. Got off to a hot start at High Dayton this year in the red system. So we put him back in the top 100. He's now more power than hit. At the time when he was drafted, everybody's like, oh, he's going to be a really good hitter. Maybe he'll add some power. He showed power in that game by homer.
Yeah.
Right? But we'll see where things go for Cam Collier, but I think that was a good opportunity for him to seize the moment where people are like, oh, were we too aggressive to put him back on the top 100 off a hot start and things have kind of evened out?
Yeah.
Summer's gone along. It's like, no, he still has this in him. So I think that was certainly promising. One of the other things that we should point out was the Skills Showcase. That was a first-time event. Roman Anthony won that. He was also my pick. Once Brooks Lee didn't get to go because he was in the major leagues for a very good reason. But Roman Anthony won on the strength of his power. He didn't do very well at all in the first 2 rounds, and then just put on a show in round 3 to move past the entire field. Where I think there's some strategy in that. Maybe save yourself. Like I don't know. We'll see what happens of the competition moving forward. There were the bunts.
Yeah.
Like some guys tried to take advantage of it. Roman Anthony's like, that's not really my game. I'm not going to try for that. He didn't get many points in the first 2 rounds. But the fact that he could just move past guys with a really strong round 3 says something about how the rules were set up, I think. I'm totally fine with that. Like, winning with dingers is more fun than...
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty fun way to win.
Yeah, in my opinion, better than winning with bunts. But still, like, Roman Anthony, he's growing into power. He moved up 3 levels last season. Now he's playing, I think, his age 20 season at AA Portland. Still the youngest of the big 3 between Marcelo Meyer, himself, and Kyle Teal, all of which were participating in Futures Game stuff in some way. Roman Anthony didn't get to play in the game itself, but then obviously took over in the Skills Showcase. And it's just a fun event. It's a fun little thing to tack on the end of it. You get to show somebody who wouldn't have been in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like Roman Anthony would have been left back in Portland.
Yeah.
And hearing about how it went for Marcelo and Kyle.
Right.
And said he gets to go win a thing on his own. And Red Sox fans get another reason to be excited. Kyle Teal did pretty well himself in the Futures game. So, hopefully this is just the start of this.
Yeah.
People will get even more excited for it next year. But, as always with these events, if you have really good pitching, which is what the National League had, you're probably going to win out. And that's exactly what happened.
It's a pretty good formula for success, no matter what.
Yeah. Have good pitching and hit dingers.
Yeah. It seems like a foolproof plan. Fun week for baseball, though, this week as the second half is nearly upon us. The trade deadline approaching more and more quickly as the days go by, which is one of the busiest times of the year for Sam. But I assume at some point you'll sleep.
Yeah, probably won't be this night.
I was going to say like in September.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. The song goes "Wake Me Up When September Ends."
Right. Exactly.
Like put me to bed when September begins.
Yeah.
I think that how that story goes.
Yeah, that's probably. I feel like that fits very well in the Sam Dykstra calendar.
I'm gonna hit up the Green Day guys right after this and be like, fellas, do I have a story for you?
Is this something that we could put into sort of a rewrite of this song? But we'll be back to something resembling normalcy next week. Not you.
We'll have Josh Jackson back next week.
We'll have Josh Jackson back.
Josh Jackson is not on this week because he was way too loaded with draft content and editing draft content.
Right.
Josh is a hero for doing that.
He is.
In case you didn't already know that. Ben is off for the rest of the week, taking a well-deserved couple days off. So those guys will be back next week. I will be in Tennessee.
Yeah, Sam
next
will be
week,
in Tennessee,
which should be a lot of fun. I will be there for the Appalachian League All-Star Game.
Yeah.
That is on Tuesday. No spoilers on that, but there could be a very exciting player involved in it. And I will be with the Smokies during the second half of the week, and we'll probably have an interview from my visit to Kodak, which I did not do this on purpose. I did this because I'm going to Johnson City, and I thought, let's go check in with the Smokies. But this is their last season in Kodak.
right?
They are moving next season.
Moving to Knoxville.
And they're moving to Knoxville. And speaking of teams that have new stadiums coming, Hillsborough Hops announced that they've had their final. Everything's been secured for a new stadium that I believe is coming in 2 years.
Very cool.
So we'll talk to Ben about that.
That's
not really like your or my domain.
Right, exactly. It's
I feel weird talking about this without Ben. But
are we allowed to do this without Ben?
But we are excited for Hillsborough to have that happen.
Yeah.
And, it sounds like a really exciting opportunity for the folks in the Portland area. They announced that opening day 2026 is when they hope to have that stadium
very
ready to
cool.
go. So.
And feels very fitting for us because it's a team in the Northwest.
Look
We're
at
Northwest
that.
guys now. Look at
Around,
that. All full circle.
I've never been to Washington, and I feel like I've been here my whole life.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're a Pacific Northwest guy. I think we can anoint you as that. We did a game with Ryan Roland Smith. We're pretty much Pacific Northwest.
He tapped us on the shoulder.
Exactly.
And,
he gave us a welcome
us.
To the Pacific Northwest. We're in.
I'm somehow wearing flannel that I was not wearing when I started this trip. It's terrific.
Well, a fun, abbreviated episode of this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. But next week, we're back to something resembling normalcy. Josh Jackson will be back. Ben Hill will be back. And you can catch Sam Dykstra once more on MLB Network next week for the Appalachian League All-Star Game. And this is fun, man.
This was good.
This was great.
I want everybody to know just how happy today made me.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. When we were cutting the pregame open, I was like, I'm doing a game with Sam. This is awesome.
It felt so natural.
Yeah,
it's just like
did.
You asked me a question and I answered, and I'm like, wait, that was on national television.
We've been doing this. We've been practicing this for 9 years on a podcast.
I'm making fun of you on national television right now. What is? No, that's okay. I actually intended on that part. That part.
That's the way it goes. No, it was a blast. And if you get a chance to watch the replays or you see the game on the website on MLB.com, get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com, and we had fun. And we hope you will as well, tuning in. So for Sam Dykstra, for the absentee Benjamin Hill and Josh Jackson and all the rest, my name is Tyler Mon. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. I'll catch you next week.